Hello, hello.
Hello, hello.
It's working. We're back.
Sweet.
We're back. Okay, hold on. I had a little.
I'm back.
Guess who's back? Should I just play the
in
Eminem
the
song?
saddle again. Or AC/DC, I'm back. No, Aerosmith.
Oh.
Aerosmith.
Back.
I'm back in the saddle. Yeah. I'm back in the saddle again.
Bum, 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 bum.
Yeah. I'm back. Boom, 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 boom. Oh, you do have some of those oils. Did I give those to you?
Josh did.
Ah, that's what I just anointed you with.
He gave me
Dirt.
from. Oh, funny story. So, have you heard of Patrick O'Hearn? He's written a couple books.
No.
I interviewed him, and I don't even know how we got on the topic. We talked about my eye and how I'm blind in it. And Sister Adele from Our Lady of Champion, who Our Lady appeared to, he said he went there for a retreat. And
Patrick
O'Hearn. And he knew the director there? Anyways, apparently she is under cause for canonization right now.
Okay.
Investigating. And he said somehow she was involved with like blind people. And he said, you should start praying to her for a miracle for your eye to help her cause for canonization. I'm like, shoot, yeah.
Huh.
So he's going to send me a prayer card. And
Of course.
Josh said he had that from Our Lady of Champion. That's like, would that be a second class relic?
What is it, dirt?
Yeah, it's dirt from where she... That'd be third. I don't know. I'm terrible with classifications of relics.
If she touched it.
I think she touched it. This is Solange Casey. Also
Yeah.
from Josh.
Yeah, I got one on my phone.
Oh, look at that. Hey, we should start recording.
Yeah, why not?
Let's do it. Hello, all. Welcome to another episode of The Manly Catholic. This is James, and ladies and gentlemen, he is back. Mr. Father Dominic.
Back in the saddle.
How you doing, brother?
Fantastic.
What's it been, like 8 months?
No.
Has it been longer?
I do. I really think it's been close to a year.
That's too much.
Well, I might have sat in on an interview with Dr. Dan.
Yes, Dr. Dan Schneider. That's right.
But
that was virtual.
this one-on-one interview stuff that we, cut our teeth on
Those are bread and butter.
a long time ago, 3 years ago, there was this.
That's what guys voted the number one Catholic podcast for men.
Yeah, we beat out Pints with the coyness.
I just want everyone to know that Father Dom received a package from them.
I did.
With some stickers.
Yeah, and confetti inside.
And I did not. So if you're listening out there, you should email them.
Where's my letter?
Where's my
That's
letter?
what James wants. That's what James
I
wants
just want the
letter.
confetti.
But we did. We did. We got named the number one
What an honor.
Catholic podcast for men.
How cool is that?
That is actually pretty cool. It's been 3 years, and James, you put a lot of hard work into the podcast. This is something you love. It's a passion. It's a ministry. This is how part of how you work out your baptismal promises of who you are, as a Catholic man, and I'm proud of you. So this is yeah. So it's cool. Just these little things are just, it's cool. We just love doing this.
Absolutely.
So those little attaboys, these little affirmations from just no-name websites who just catalog and collect data about Catholic manly podcasts, and hey, we get number one. Why not?
We'll take it.
Cool.
We'll take the victory. And hear from you guys too. I mean, I get emails and I meet some of you. I don't think I told you this. I was at CAFA this last year, and someone came up to me and said, "Hey, are you James from the Manly Catholic?" I said, "Yeah, I am."
Oh,
and
really?
then we sat next to each other. It was great. But no, it like you said, those. Obviously, when we started this, we talked about, even if we only convert one soul, however long we do this, it's totally worth it.
Absolutely.
But like you said, getting those attaboys once in a while.
Yep.
It is. We're human too, right? It's obviously in principle that's easy to say. It's like, hey, if we can convert one soul, but you can start to wonder too, like, oh, is anyone actually listening? Are we making a difference? But yeah, we clearly are.
I think so. It's a calling. It really is. We're very particular in our niche of what we do on this podcast. We're geared towards men. And it has been a journey so far.
Amen.
These 3 years.
Well, before we dive in, can you pray for us, sir?
Yes. Nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti. Amen. Pater noster, qui es in caelis, sanctificetur nomen tuum, adveniat regnum tuum. Fiat voluntas tua, sicut in cielo et in terra. Panem nostrum quotidianum da nobis hodie, et dimitte nobis debita nostra, sicut et nos dimittimus debitoribus nostris. Et ne nos inducas in tentationem, sed libera nos a malo. Amen. In nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti. Amen.
Do you can pray a Latin rosary on Hallow?
Do you really?
Yes.
That's so
awesome.
cool, man. And I've been telling people for years, pray the rosary in Latin.
It's a different experience. Actually, there's one. I must admit the recording is not the highest of qualities. With Padre Pio, he's doing a rosary. I don't know if it's in Latin. Could be Italian. He was Italian.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's on there as well. Hallow's got really cool stuff.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. It's really
interesting
seeing them grow. I remember when they came on the scene a long time ago, and where they're at today.
Absolutely.
Little things like that. They just start taking off. The Holy Spirit's behind all this.
Amen. Well, we were going to kind of do. We have had some questions in the past year since
Q&A,
but we did want to dive into more in depth too of some of these questions. So I've kind of created a catalog. I wanted to throw them at you and see what kind of discussion
we can tag team these things.
Absolutely. So this is going to be a big topic. We might spend the whole episode on this, but a friend especially talked about venial versus mortal sin, and a little bit of a deeper dive to kind of give context to where this friend was coming from. So this individual has struggled with pornography use and masturbation and things like that, and he basically said, what is the church stance on when a sin becomes habitual? So like to the point where basically what he was asking was, is it still a mortal sin when it has become a habit to the point where like your brain has actually probably undergone changes where, the power of habit and things like that. So because of mortal sin, we'll dive into what actually constitutes a mortal sin and all that too. But that was kind of the basics of his question. So what's the church difference? What does it teach venial versus mortal sin?
Yeah, I think we can look at the catechism and look at venial sin and mortal sin.
I will look that up right now.
And then we just look at, what is an addiction as well. And there has been scientific proof from a neurological perspective of the brain developing in a different way when pornography has been inserted into a person's life. When they started watching at 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, whatever, as their brain develops, your frontal lobe isn't fully developed till you're 25. Some of the worst sins that I committed was, from 16 to 24 years old, and there's usually alcohol or drugs or something involved and all, so yeah, we have to understand, okay, what is the addiction? But obviously, with that being said, there's something that I do have to say, and I know there's going to be priests out there who would disagree with me because people in the confessional have said this to me, that, Father, I went to Father so-and-so, and, he said, yeah, you do have an addiction to porn, and, you don't really need to confess it all the time, and you can still receive the Eucharist because the Eucharist will give you strength to overcome it, which is wrong. And I'll tell them that. And I know there's priests out there who will say, I'm wrong because this person suffers with an addiction. What I tell that person in the confessional is, you have to go to confession every Saturday and then hit the vigil mass right afterwards.
Yeah.
Because the Eucharist is the thing that provides you grace to begin to overcome the thing in the first place, but you have to be in a state of grace to begin to receive the graces from the Eucharist. So that's why you need confession. Because then the person will say, well, the priest said that, well, I need the graces of the Eucharist. No, you need the graces of the sacrament of reconciliation. You need the graces of the sacrament of reconciliation to begin to defeat this thing. Plus, by a priest saying that to someone who's in the confessional, who's struggling with pornography and masturbation, say it's a full-blown addiction or a borderline addiction, and saying that you don't need to confess this all the time and it's okay for you just to go receive the Eucharist because this is an addiction, what that priest is allowing that person to enter into is laziness, being undisciplined. And what you're saying in a conscious or subconscious way to the penitent is like, you'll never overcome this, so you're just going to have to deal with it, and this is who you are. So this is going to define who you are, right? So it's a bunch of BS. What needs to happen, and Jordan Peterson talked about this in a podcast with Pints of Aquinas. I was just watching this last night. Just breaking that addiction down. And they were talking about porn and masturbation because Matt Fradd, has dealt with that in the past.
Absolutely.
In terms of like helping people and writing about it and all that, with Jason Everett and Mark Hart, right? Yeah, I think so. And they're saying, okay, well, this is like, okay, we got to look at like coping mechanisms. Like, what are you doing when you're stressed? What are you doing when you're alone?
Yes, they did talk about that.
You have to replace this with something else, right? And so they're talking about that. They're breaking it apart and they're breaking it down piece by piece. And I was actually just looking in this book that you have on your desk by Bear, and I remember the page. It was 73, and. I'll talk with these guys who are struggling in the confessional. So like one step at a time, inch by inch. And here it is. It's rule number 5. This is Bear Wozniak, 12 Rules for Manliness. Where have all the cowboys gone? Rule number 5. Bridle your passion, let good things run wild. And there's a quote under here that he found someplace. It says, victory is won not in miles, but in inches. Win a little now, hold your ground, and later win a little more. That's what we're talking about here when it comes to porn and masturbation for someone who's been doing it for decades. Okay, yeah, it's an addiction, but what does that mean? This is just who you are? You're going to let that define who you are?
Right.
No, you're not. What you're going to do, and this comes from another book called Dangerous, I think it's Dangerous Men. I'm going to buy this for the guys at Harmel Academy, part of their formation there. I think it's Dangerous Man. What we're saying here is, you have to fight, right? You have to get out of the trenches and you have to take it yard by yard or foot by foot. And you never give up and you never go back. Sure, you're going to maybe struggle with this addiction for a long time, but at least you can begin to overcome it inch at a time. And you never go back, right? You take the inch and you hold it, right? You become dangerous. You become a dangerous man. What I also like to talk about with these men, and it depends who it is. If it's someone I'm working with, I talk about a dangerous man to them. Really what I end up saying is, you guys, you have to be vicious.
What do you mean by that?
You have to be a monster, right? You have to get angry. You have to get mad. Now, am I talking about you get mad at yourself? No, that's shame. You have to be careful. Guilt brings you to the confessional. That's forgiven. And then you have to be careful with the shame. So when I say be vicious, be angry, be a monster, be a dangerous man, what I'm saying is you have to be a fighter. We have all these self-help groups. We have all these therapies. We have all these blockers that we can put on our social media devices. We can have, groups of other guys holding us accountable. And that's all great. That's all great. But what I've seen guys who have done those things for years is they fall into this lackadaisical situation of just they're stuck in a rut and they're just doing these things. That's it. And nothing's happening. What you have to do, that's it. Yep. Dangerous men. What you have to do is you have to be angry. You have to be vicious. You have to be a monster. You have to be like John the Baptist in the desert, right? You have to go and find the lion. Don't let the lion find you. You have to go find the lion, and you have to fight the lion. What does Peter, our first pope, say? Satan is a roaring lion, a prowling lion, looking for someone to devour. Resist him, silent in your faith. Remember, and then we are attacking the gates of hell, right? Matthew chapter 16, right, verses 18 and following. The Catholic Church is attacking, and so are we as men. We attack, right? So if we're struggling with porn, if we're struggling with masturbation, if we say it's an addiction, if we just want to just give up, No, you stand up and you be vicious, you dangerous, you be a monster, you get angry, and you fight this thing. That's what we do in men. And you know what? That language is okay to use. Well, it's okay to use.
Well, Jordan Peterson talks about that. He has a...
That's right. He says...
Slaying your dragon.
The dragon.
Slaying your
Here's
dragon.
the dragon.
Yep.
And it's a dragon you can't kill.
Slay the dragon.
Yet.
Yes.
Yeah, he says slay the dragon. Mm-hmm. So he says find a dragon that you can fight.
Yeah.
And then by fighting that dragon... you'll become more competent. You'll become more skilled. You'll become a more efficient and effective fighter. Then you find the next dragon. Mm-hmm. But Jordan Peterson is saying, you go find them. You go look for them. Right. I love that. You don't sit and wait. Men don't do that. No, we go and we find and we fight. And that's part of this podcast is getting men to be active. Getting men out of the mud. Getting men to understand that their masculinity is not toxic. Their masculinity is so desperately needed in this world. And Satan wants to keep men down so that he can continue going into the garden and raping and pillaging that which Adam was supposed to give guard and protect, right? So, I mean, there's a lot there, and I'm digressing, but you know, when it comes to porn and masturbation, you need to be a monster. You need to be vicious. You need to fight. You need all those other variables, you know, accountability partners. You need all the blockers. You need a therapy. You need all that stuff. But you just never give up. And you need confession. So if you have to go to confession on Saturday and then go to the vigil mass right after that, and if you have to do that for 10 years, do it. Suck it up. Do it. How else are you going to conquer this thing? How are you going to conquer this thing? And that's what I'm sick of. Like, men will get to a certain point. First, they'll get addicted, and then they'll realize they're addicted like 12 years later or something, or 15 or 20 years later, and then they want to start getting help, which is good. This is all good. But then they fall into this area of their travels in this attachment or addiction, and then they just give up and they just sit. That's the next movement. That's God saying, okay, now it's time to get vicious. It's time to be a dangerous man. And it's time to say enough is enough. Go find the lion and slay it. Go find the lion and slay it. So, and it's one step at a time. It's one step at a time. You may struggle with porn and masturbation. I was just talking with one guy yesterday in confession. It's every day, sometimes 3 times a day. And he doesn't know what to do. Yeah. And it just breaks my heart. It's like, here's a man full of so much potential that Satan is just overwhelming him. Yeah. And he's just stuck in the mud, and he's not moving, and that's exactly where Satan wants him, right? So I said, hey, bro, you're in the right place. You're in confession. Like, this is exactly where you're supposed to be. And know that when you leave this confession, you're clean. You're clean of all that stuff. You start over again, right? But you still have your memory. You still have your mind. Like, don't let that shame beat you up, because Satan's going to use that. Your soul's clean, right? But you're still going to have all the gunk in your mind. This is where you need to be vicious, and this is where you need to be dangerous, and you need to start cleaning your mind with the power of the Holy Spirit to illuminate your intellect. St. Paul in Romans chapter 12 says, don't conform yourselves to this world, but always be transformed by the renewal of your mind, so that you may know or discern what is pleasing and right in the eyes of God. So these men who are struggling with this, they have to know where they're at. They have to accept that fact, and then they got to get vicious. And we could talk more about what that means, and I think we should maybe in a later podcast. But I'm serious about that. You got to be a dangerous man. You got to be a monster, and you got to slay those dragons. Don't let the lion find you. Go and find the lion and strangle it. Like, whether you have the power of Jesus. So how do we do that? We use the sacraments. You're baptized. You receive reconciliation in the Eucharist, and you're confirmed. We're on the edge of Pentecost. Like, the power of the Holy Spirit is amazing. Like, I want all these guys to know, because this is the number one weapon. Because I have boys who are 7 years old to 95 years old who say they're struggling with this stuff. Jeez. Can you believe that? So this is Satan's number one weapon. Soldiers on the battlefield, if we want to win the war, we find the pinnacle of the enemy's fortification, the weapon they're using to destroy us, right? Okay, so what is it? Well, it's Satan and his army and his minions, and it's pornography, and it's masturbation. So instead of letting that find us and try and battle it when the temptation hits us, we need to find a way to go out there and attack, and we need to do it together as men, because men come into confession and they're beat up from porn and masturbation, and they're isolated. And that's exactly what an enemy wants to do to conquer anybody, is to get the powerful men lazy and separated. Lazy and separated, right? And that's what Satan did in the garden to Adam. Satan wants all men in this world to be the first Adam. Satan wants all first Adams in the world. All men to be first Adams. That way he can get into the garden and he can rape and pillage and he could do whatever the hell he wants because men aren't going to fight. And he wants them isolated because men on fire for God and then working together,
that's dangerous.
There'll be no more abortion. There'll be no more contraception. There'll be no more human trafficking. There'll be no more euthanasia. There'll be no more divorce. If men would stand up and unite and be on fire for the Lord, we would change the world. Men would change the world, right? And so, well, that's why we started this podcast.
I love be vicious though. I know too. Jordan Peterson talked about too, because a lot of times what happens is yes, it's good that you want to fight this, but then a lot of times what happens is there's that void because they filled their time with, maybe they're watching hours of porn a day. It's just like, okay, well, what do I do with my time now?
Yes, you're right.
So you have to fill it. You have to fill it with something, right? And that's when you talk about being vicious. But like, go after the virtues. Go to adoration. Go to adoration for 3 hours. If you're watching porn for 3 hours, go to adoration for 3 hours.
That's being dangerous.
That's attacking it.
You're being a dangerous man. You're attacking it. Exactly. That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Because I mean, it's absolutely right. Human psyche is like, okay, so I want to stop this, but this was taking up so much of my time. I'm consumed by it. What do I do now? Or maybe for one day you like willpower it through. Okay, what do you do after that?
Yeah, and that's what happens. They'll willpower it through for a week.
One other thing too, he says too in that
days.
podcast. I was listening to the same podcast with Pints with Aquinas, and they talked about how you have to kind of essentially separate your past life from your new life. Because he talked about the example Jordan Peterson used, alcoholism.
That's right, getting rid of your friends.
All your friends. Most of them probably alcoholic too.
It's a complete life change.
I mean, that's what Jesus calls us to. Metanoia, right?
Yeah.
Total transformation. Mm-hmm. Let me come in and transform you. Jesus. This isn't like a nice little fluffy, like let's take up your cross and like a symbolic thing. Like, no, literally take up your cross every day. It's going to be hard. He never promises the easy life. He never promises a glorious life. He promises a glorious life in the next life, not this life.
Right. He promises suffering.
That's the one thing he did promise.
Right? And he models that. And he models that for us. And he models that for us. And that's a beautiful, powerful thing.
Yes, it is.
Satan wants us to cower and avoid suffering.
That's
like the number one thing in humanity right now is to avoid sickness and suffering and death. And I'm not knocking the advancements of technology in the medical field, and I am not. That stuff is fascinating, beautiful, and those things can be a gift from the Lord. But when we want to try and escape death and suffering altogether, then we're going to run into some big problems. But So we were talking about venial and moral.
Venial moral. So I did pull it up in the catechism. All right. So I do want to define this, so then we can dive deep in the definition. So this is from the catechism. This is let's see, part 3, section 1, article 8 is all on sin. All right. So let's just go into mortal sin. Destroys charity in the heart of man by a grave violation of God's law. It turns man away from God, who is his ultimate end and his beatitude, by preferring an inferior good to him. Venial sin allows charity to subsist, even though it offends and wounds it. Mortal sin, let's see, hold on. For a sin to be mortal, this is what most people have probably heard of it, 3 conditions must together be met. Mortal sin is a sin whose object is grave matter, and which is also committed with full knowledge and deliberate consent. So grave matter, to define that, is specified by the 10 Commandments, corresponding to the answer of Jesus to the rich young man, do not kill, do not commit adultery, so on and so forth. The gravity of sins is more or less great, such as there's basically a hierarchy, right? So murder is graver than theft. One must take also into account who is wronged. Violence against parents is in itself graver than violence against a stranger, due to the natural law. Mortal sin requires full knowledge and complete consent. It presupposes knowledge of the sinful character of the act, of its opposition to God's law. It also implies a consent sufficiently deliberate to be a personal choice. Feigned ignorance and hardness of heart do not diminish, but rather increase the the voluntary character of a sin. Let's see here. One commits venial sin when in a less serious manner he does not observe the standard prescribed by the moral law, or when he disobeys the moral law in a grave manner, but without full knowledge or without complete consent. And then it says venial sin weakens charity, it manifests a disordered affection for created goods, it impedes the soul's progress in the exercise of the virtues and the practice of the moral good. And we can go into that, but so mortal sin, so it has to be grave manner, committed with full knowledge and deliberate consent. And I think we get into like the addiction, then the deliberate consent, we could argue in some cases would be hindered because of actual brain changes.
Right, that addiction. I mean,
but as you mentioned too, but even that, I mean, even if it does technically, on a technicality, become a venial sin, you still know it's wrong.
Yeah. I mean, well, that's what they'll say when they come. I mean, that's why they're in confession, because they know it's wrong, right?
Right.
They
know.
But again, the danger is when priests say that you don't need to come into confession and confess this all the time, because it is an addiction.
I hate that.
And don't worry about it. Just continue to receive the Eucharist, because the Eucharist will help you. Well, no, you don't need the Eucharist. You need the sacrament of reconciliation. So I mean, that's where we have to just focus on. I just don't want guys to say I'm addicted, and my priest said pretty much just kind of have to deal with it, and you're going to deal with it the rest of your life and continue receiving the Eucharist. And it doesn't work that way.
Yeah, and that's
what the sacramental grace is, right? I mean, so.
Well, that's what my friend argued too. Is like he's gotten a lot of bad pastoral advice, and I said, that's unfortunate, because like you said, and it sounds like priests that maybe have given that advice too.
Yeah.
Which is really a shame too, because like you said, if a man is coming in really struggling, and the priest, his advice is like, well, it's an addiction, don't confess it anymore. It's like, is that really what you want to tell your flock?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's wrong. They know it's wrong. Clearly, they think something's going on. Why would they confess it then?
Right.
And again, then for you to tell them,
and it's just saying to the man, don't fight it. Really,
just like, give up.
This is who you are.
Just give up.
And it's not true, because I know people who are addicted to drugs. I know people who are addicted to alcohol. I know people who are, sexaholics or whatever, addicted to all that stuff. And they don't do it anymore
because they're vicious.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, I love that.
Yeah, because they're vicious, and it's just you get angry and you just say no more.
Mm-hmm.
No more. I remember the first time that I saw porn, and it was 12 years old, 11 years old, and then, by the time I was 17, 18, 19, you start having more free access to the internet and stuff like that. Right. And so, I could see myself becoming addicted to this, 17, 18, 19. 100%. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then, at 19, there was just this moment where I recognized, I know this is wrong, and I want to stop. And I got angry because I realized in that moment that no one's putting a gun to my head to tell me to do it. Nobody's forcing me in any way, shape, or form. And I'm a man, and I don't like to be controlled. And in these moments, I'm not in control. Therefore, something else is controlling me. I don't like that. That made me angry, and so I stopped. Because I didn't like it that I was not in control, that something else was controlling me. Mm-hmm. And I praise the Lord that I had that at such a young age. And then it's never been an issue. Never. Like,
Praise
I
God.
killed it.
Praise God.
I killed it. Am I a man in 2024, breathing in this toxicity in our secular culture of hypersexualism, hedonism? We all are. I see it everywhere. So do you, right? So we're always combating it. It takes a lot of energy. It's like we're always combating this weapon that Satan throws at us, but I still go back to that time when I was like 18, 19, and I remember I was angry, and it was this righteous anger, and I was pissed because those moments where I couldn't control myself, I didn't like it. And so I said, well, the only way to do this is just to stop, and I walked away.
It's a very mature decision at 19 years old. Yeah.
I was angry.
Do that. Yeah.
Don't control me.
Yeah.
Of course, I was away from the church at that time, and I had to do everything myself because I didn't have God. But
Right.
in that moment, I could see there was some
God was
divine.
still working.
He's
still working in you.
he was still working, but you just begin to stop, and you find something else to do, and you find something else to fill that void, and you take one step, 1 inch, right? So you could be addicted to that, and you could be doing it 3 times a day, once a day, and then you work with a priest. Like I'm working with this guy at Harmel, and he was addicted at a young age, and when he came to us, it was his first thing he mentioned in confession. He's never really been to confession. It began to awaken his faith, getting in an adoration and all the sacraments, like you said, being vicious, go to adoration, go to pray the rosary, bring in Joseph, bring in Mary, bring in your archangels, like hit everything with this thing, get all the weapons of heaven and hit this thing, right, with all you got. And so just began to work with him. And, he'd come in to confession once a week, and, forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. My last confession was last week. I did this 6 times. A couple months later, working on this one step at a time, man. It's an inch. It's an inch, and hold your ground. It's an inch, and hold your ground. And then pretty soon it'll be a foot, hold your ground. And then it'll be 10 feet, hold your ground. And then before you know it, it's going to be a mile. And you'll be able to hold your ground, and you'll never come back, right? And so that's what I did with this kid. Just like, hey, an inch, a foot. And then, it comes back a month later working on this, and it's just like, forgive me, Father, for my sin. My last confession was last week, and you know what? I didn't fall into it. And it was a week. And then it was 2 weeks. And then he did it once. Okay, so we started over again. After another week, and then now it's like 2 months, 3 months. Yeah. There it is. It works. It works. The power of Jesus conquers all things, even this. The power of Jesus. Don't think this is you're a lost cause, or there's no hope, guys. Don't. That again, that is another tactic of the evil one, using shame to beat yourself up, right? With Jesus, you can conquer all things, man. Don't give up. Keep fighting.
Let him in.
Keep fighting.
Just let him in.
But yeah, so mortal sin, venial sin, right? You mortal sin, it's a mortal sin. And that if you commit this mortal sin, what'll happen? And you do it anyway. Boom. Mortal sin. Then after that, you need conviction. Like, I need a conviction of heart. I got to go to confession, or fear of the Lord. Right? I mean, those two things drive you to confession, like deep conviction of the heart because you love God so much and what you did hurt him. Or you may not be there, that deep relationship with the Lord, but it's wrong and you fear hell, right? And then that drives you to confession too, right? So, and you know what? I know people who don't mortal sin. I do. I know people I know a lot of people who don't I can say that because I hear a lot of, confessions and stuff from people regularly, and they're typically those who are older, a lot of life experience, a lot of wisdom, and their spiritual journey, they're way up the mountain. Yeah. I'm way down here. They're way up there, and they don't mortal sin. Yeah. They'll come in and with a truly contrite heart, and they're throwing cotton balls, and
What's one cotton ball sin that you've heard? Let's just talk about that. I'm just curious.
Yeah. I stubbed my toe and I said, "Darn it."
No, really?
You'll have stuff like that.
It's cute. I love that though.
It can be cute. But you know what? These people who are spiritual powerhouses, they transcend my ability to grasp where they're at because they have wisdom. Yeah. Because they have life experience, and they don't
mess around.
No,
they don't mess around with sin.
No, and they've worked at it.
Yeah, absolutely.
They worked at it. And then you have people who are ignorant, and it's just like they just don't know. They don't know the 10 Commandments. They don't know the precepts of the church. They don't know the spiritual and corporal works of mercy, or the gifts and the fruits of the Holy Spirit, or the Beatitudes. They don't know any of these things. They don't know what mortal sin is. They don't know what venial sin is. They don't know what the Mass is. They don't know what the sacraments are. But they're in the confessional because they don't know where else to go.
Right.
They don't know where else to go, and those are beautiful confessions, So there's a lot of ignorance. Satan wants us to be ignorant too.
Amen.
He wants us to stay in that as well. He doesn't want us to receive the sacraments, right? Sacraments are full of grace. Grace is what? Grace is food for the soul. Food for the soul. What's going to go to heaven on Judgment Day? Our soul. What's death? Separation of the body or the soul from the body. Our soul goes to heaven for the 4 last things, right? Death, judgment, heaven, or hell.
Right.
And our soul is judged, not our body, our soul. So if we're going to take care of our bodies like most people want to do in our hedonistic cultures to look like a ripped Greek god, and they don't take care of their soul, but they'll take care of their body with good food, right? The sacraments are good food for the soul. So that's what grace is, food for the soul. And so when your soul goes to God, it should be pure, it should be strong, it should be healthy. Why? Because you've embraced the baptism promises and the graces you received, the theological virtues infused in your soul. You received reconciliation as much as you can in the Eucharist. You were confirmed, right? And hopefully, on your deathbed, you received the viaticum and, oh man, yeah, like good stuff.
Confession. You gave me really good advice. Maybe you said it on the podcast too, but you said, when you go into confession, just list your sins and the number of times.
Oh, yeah.
I think a lot of people go into like a story. But I think, because I used to do that. And
in a
way though, it's almost like
people don't know.
You're trying to explain
and they're
yourself.
Nervous. Yeah.
Yeah, they're nervous for sure.
So
that's helped me.
And people who have mastered, well, I shouldn't say that. People who have
they're up the spiritual mountain.
Yeah, experience. They've climbed. Yeah, the experience in the confessional. They'll come in, and you can tell they've been here before. Number and kind and all that.
Yeah.
And then there's some people who have, they don't know how to do it, and I'll walk them through. And then some people want to talk about, I had one guy go, and I wanted to see how long this would go because I knew I had, 20 minutes left in confession. There was nobody else out there, so I just wanted to
let him go.
I just let him go. And he talked for a long time about the sin of anger because, his son-in-law and him were putting in a new furnace in their house. And he just talked forever about the furnace. And so I learned a lot about furnaces. So people, and I'm not particular. I mean, there's times where we're swamped, and we get a lot of confessions at OLC.
Praise God that you do.
Because we talk about it, we preach about it, and if someone is rambling or if someone wants to ask a lot of questions, we're polite and just interrupt and say, there's 15 other people here. I got a half hour and then I have mass, but I would love to talk about this with you some more because what you've said is very, very important. And I care about you. And just call Linda, my secretary, set up an appointment.
Yeah. Maybe
tomorrow or the next day. And we can talk. And then there's times where, people abuse the sacrament. And, and in John chapter 20, where it says, whose sins you forgive are forgiven them, and whose sins you retain are retained. There's times where we have to retain. Absolution, we can't give it. The person's not contrite at all.
What do you mean they abuse it? Basically that they're doing it because they feel like there's usually that sin, but there's sin of presumption. There's sin of presumption. You'll catch that sometimes, or or someone will say, Father, I'm home from college, and we went out to the strip club, and we did coke, and we got high, and we were in the strip club for hours, and man, I can't wait to do that next weekend. But at least you can forgive me now. Wow.
No, I can't.
Wow, really? People have said that.
Mm-hmm.
That's disappointing.
Yes, but it is an opportunity in that moment too,
to teach, to pastor.
Pastoral, but I can't. Sometimes that absolution has to be, withheld. In venial sins, okay, I always like to say, a mortal sin. I always maybe it's because sometimes I can see people struggling with this. I really don't struggle with road rage, but I've seen it. And it just kind of contrasts mortal and venial sin. It's, you're driving down a road, someone cuts you off. With sin, there's always a split-second decision to go one way or the other. There's no middle ground.
True. That's so true.
This is a nanosecond. That's why we need prudence and temperance. That's why we need to ask the Holy Spirit to help us in that moment instead of act out of our emotions, in that moment to illuminate our intellect and help us with our passions and our desires and our emotions to make the right decision, right? Most people don't do that. They act out of their animal instincts and they completely react. And usually it's just like, oh, that was a bad thing, right? And then their frontal lobe catches up and said, that was stupid, right? But that's why we need the Holy Spirit to illuminate our intellect. Anyway, you're driving, someone cuts you off, you're angry, and you want to ram them off the road and kill them. And you relish that moment for an hour while you're driving because the person just sped up. And you're thinking, man, if I catch him at the light, I'm gonna ram him, and and then I'll go out and I'm gonna just beat him to death, or I got my gun or knife and I want to kill him, and you relish that and you desire that. Yeah, that's totally mortal sin. Right. Or person cuts you off, you're angry, right? And then there's like a quick second of, gosh, I just want to run off the road and kill. No, I don't, because that would be mortal sin. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Okay, I would say that's a venial sin. I would say that's a venial sin. Yeah. Right. Some people say maybe it's not because in that moment you stopped. But
you have the disposition to react that way.
Bingo. Okay,
so
because that's what needs to be talked about.
There's something else within you that causes you to do that.
Bingo. Yeah. So I would say those are venial sins. So mortal sin, you need. Well, I mean, we could talk about baptism, because baptism gets rid of mortal sin. If you're an adult, that happens at Easter Vigil a lot. When you're baptized, and you're an adult. Mortal sin, venial sin, temporal punishment due to sin, or original sin, all gone. It's beautiful, all gone, right? So, mortal sin can be taken care of during that. I mean, we can talk about red martyrdom and white martyrdom and all that stuff. But confession is that primary place where mortal sin has to be. It's the only place. John chapter 20, Matthew chapter 16, 18 and following. Like it talks about, and James, in the letter of James, your sins will be forgiven.
Great letter.
Yeah, you wrote it, James. You wrote that.
Yeah, I talk with him a little bit. Now and then. So
you're definitely James the Greater,
not
James the Lesser.
Yes.
So mortal sin is taken care of in the confessional, and then venial sins, a pure act of contrition. But most specifically, and venial sins can be taken into the confessional. I have tons of people that will confess venial sins, and I'm not going to tell them that. Yeah. They brought it in. The Holy Spirit brought them there to the confessional. Praise the Lord, right? Mm-hmm. But in the Mass, there's 3 parts of the Mass where venial sins are taken care of. Penitential rite at the beginning. Oh, yeah. I confess to Almighty God and you, my brothers and sisters. Right? So before you go to Mass, recall to mind those venial sins. Mm-hmm. And at the penitential rite, lay those before the Lord. Boom. Done. Okay? Ready to receive the Eucharist. Okay, well, what if the first reading, second reading, responsorial psalm, the gospel convict you of more venial sin? Well, after the gospel, the priest kisses the book and says, through the words, per evangelica dicta, deliuntur nostra delicta. Through the words of the gospel, through the words of the Holy Gospel, may our sins be washed away. There's another time, right? So after the gospel, again, if there's some venial sins that have come up since the penitential rite, lay them on the altar again and recognize that they're taken care of by the words of the priest after the gospel. Well, okay, what about the homily? And what about and then parts of the Eucharistic canon that convict you of more venial sins that you have discovered, since the penitential rite and the kissing of the gospel? Well, then you have, right? Then you have the Agnus Dei. There's that last chance before you receive the Eucharist, And if you're not in a state of grace, don't receive the Eucharist. Right. Goodness sake, like a precept of the church is to receive the Eucharist once a year on Easter and go to confession once a year before Easter to put you in a state of grace to receive the Eucharist once a year on Easter. That's a precept of the church. You have to receive the Eucharist once a year as a Catholic, but you have to go to Mass every Sunday. Think about that. You have to go to Mass every Sunday, but you don't have to receive the Eucharist every Sunday. Though if you're in a state of grace, absolutely. But so many people receive the Eucharist and they're not in a state of grace. They don't even know what that means. Yeah. They don't even know what it means.
Sadly. I have a story about righteous anger I want to share with you. Because you mentioned that. And so we have this lending library right down the road.
A library?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just that,
So you're going to talk about
post and
righteous anger
righteous anger
in
the
in
library.
books in the library.
Books.
Sounds dangerous.
So our boys go down there and they pick out. So there's like a kids section.
Is this at the end of the street?
No. So if you're going down our street, it's on the right hand side. It's like a little post in the ground.
It's a dead end down here.
No, the opposite way.
Oh.
Like you're leaving our street
going
away
that
from
way.
the tracks.
Oh,
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And so they grab books once in a while and they'll come back and it's like, all right, yeah, whatever.
Oh, did they grab a book that shouldn't have been there?
Oh yeah.
Oh, dude.
So I looked at it. And it was like a cartoonish type of thing. Looked like it was a cartoon. And I was like, okay, let's see what's in this. So I flip through it. I'm like, oh, this looks kind of odd. Get towards the end. There's a girl who is taking her shirt off. And then the next page, 2 women are making out. And they're like probably junior high girl age. I mean, how can you really tell in cartoons, right? I was like, oh, this is good. So I threw out the book. And so if I have to pay for that, whatever, if anyone's listening.
Burn it.
But, I'm not going to let kids deal with that trash. And I was like, why is this even in here?
Mm-hmm.
I was livid.
Mm-hmm. As you should be.
And I told my wife, we have to check every single book. Because, I mean, the kids don't know. They just pick up like, oh, yeah, this looks like a kid book.
Yeah.
And, but yeah, that was disturbing. And I was very mad about that.
You know, that's a
down.
good point. I mean, talking about mortal sin and venial sin. I mean, even like just temptation to sin and our concupiscence because of our fallen nature.
Right.
Righteous anger.
Yeah. Jesus was righteously angry.
Angered, yeah.
At least once in the temple.
Oh, there's multiple times.
Was there?
Scribes and the Pharisees.
Oh,
in the temple.
yeah. What do you call them? Brood of vipers. I love
King
that.
Herod called King Herod a fox.
Oh, that's right.
You know? Yeah, St. Paul in Ephesians chapter 4, and was it, I think 23 and following, that the chapter is rules for a new life. It's our modus operandi for formation at Harmel Academy for the Trades for these guys. This is the prayer for them. It's our formation prayer.
What was it?
Ephesians chapter 4, E4, 23 to 27, I think. And in it, St. Paul says, be angry. Be angry. But do not sin. Do not sin. See that righteous anger, someone who has righteous anger, I mean, that's a man who is angry because there's an injustice, is good. That is a good thing. But you need to be in a state of grace. You need to have prudence and temperance. You need to have justice. You need to have fortitude. You need those things. Otherwise, right, your emotions can just get the best of you. But there's nothing wrong with righteous anger.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing wrong with that. Right? Imagine if all men had righteous anger. There'd be no more abortion. There'd be no more divorce. There'd be no more contraception or human trafficking or any of that crap. I'm serious about that too. Like, people have kind of laughed at me when I said that. Like, what, you think these things are just like unstoppable? It's because what's the worst thing in the world is when a good man does nothing in the face of evil. Right? So if good men stood up and fought these things, there would be no more abortion. There would be no more divorce. There'd be no cohabitation, premarital sex. There'd be none of that crap.
Yeah.
It has to be the man. Why? Because the snake went to the man in the garden. Tried to find Adam.
Be angry, but do not sin. Do not let the sun set on your anger, and do not leave room for the devil.
Yeah.
Like that. I get the morning offering every morning from the Catholic company, and I think it was 2 or 3 days ago. It was something along lines, and you know how I'm great at quoting people, and it said, an empty mind is the devil's playground. I love that. It's from a saint, allegedly. And it's so true. I mean, because Father Ripper talks about that, right?
Yeah.
What do you fill your mind with?
Yes. It's the exact same thing with idols. if God is ejected from your heart, it creates a vacuum. It's going to be filled with something. And if it's not God, it's going to be subpar.
Something.
It'll cause chaos and disorder in your life. It's the same thing with idle hands is a devil's workshop.
Oh, that's a good one, too.
Again, I mean, go back to Harmel Academy. You know, these guys who are learning trades, this is what I teach them. As I teach them welding or metal fabrication or even Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, idle hands is a devil workshop. You know how many of these guys struggle with like video games? I mean, that's a podcast in itself, bro.
I was hugely addicted to video games. I was actually up until probably when I got married. Very close to that.
These
I found a higher purpose.
There you go, right? You eject that, but you need to fill it because it does create a void.
How many hours I spent on the video game console?
Mm-hmm. Well, these guys at the academy, you know, they'll show up late to class or even to work because they stay up till 2-3 in the morning playing video games, and they got to wake up at 6.
Yeah, I totally can understand that though.
They're effeminate. Yeah. They're effeminate, not feminine. Effeminate. They're effeminate men. They're soft. Now, what about those who play like video games for educational purposes? I don't know. I'm not into video games. I don't know where the stuff is at right now. Yeah. But I mean, obviously, this stuff is here to stay. You know what are like the flight simulator stuff, and I mean, are those video games? Like, there's things out there that could probably be like educational based,
for
right?
Sure, but you really have to limit that, for sure. And you be very careful of what is popping up. I mean, especially now with like ads and stuff, like YouTube. If you're like having your kid watch YouTube, you better be right there with them the whole time.
Gosh, we can't. It's impossible.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
It's almost impossible.
Yeah.
So, yes. Say that again.
What? Which part?
I said idle hands is the devil's workshop, and then you said empty mind.
An empty mind is the devil's playground.
Your mind is very powerful. What an instrument, what a tool, what a gift.
Yes, if used properly.
If used properly.
Empty mind.
A lot of that battle is in the mind with Satan.
I have a fun question for you. Switching gears here. You ready for this?
Yeah.
Nowhere to go. All right. You're a priest.
Correct.
You're in the middle of nowhere.
Okay.
You're pretty sure you're about to die.
Okay.
Can you absolve yourself?
No.
Can you give yourself last rites?
I cannot. No.
Can you do? But you can do a perfect act of contrition, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
But
you can't absolve yourself in absolute dire. Okay.
We have to talk about, I mean, like, if someone is in a POW camp, pagan, wants to be baptized, truly filled with Jesus Christ, and can't, and then is murdered, tortured and murdered, right? I mean, there's red martyrdom. Like, baptism is definitely taking effect. If someone's driving to church to go to confession and they have pure contrition, examination of conscience, full intention of going to confession, boom, hit, killed, right? Graces of the sacraments are applied. Jesus works outside of sacraments. So if I'm in the middle of nowhere and I know I'm going to die, I can make that act of contrition. And if there was a priest, yes, 100% guaranteed, I would go, no holds barred, right? So the graces apply.
Okay.
But I can't hold up a mirror and do that, and I can't anoint myself, and I can't do any of that myself.
Fair enough.
That's always a fun question to talk about with the kids in school.
Because
they'll ask those things.
Because
they
it's curious.
Because they think, I mean, even hearing like, oh, Father Dom said he goes to confession. He has a spiritual director.
Yeah. Like, wait, what?
Like, I've been anointed,
Yeah.
before. It's like, I need the sacraments just as much as you guys. Just because I'm a priest doesn't mean I'm some perfect holy man. I have a lot of responsibility. And I'm different than you because of my indelible mark, but I still need those graces, man. I still hunger for confession and the Eucharist but it is pretty stinking awesome being a priest. I'll tell you that much. It's awesome. Fighting in the spiritual realm. I love fighting.
We have a book. It says exorcisms and deliverance prayers.
Oh yeah, I brought that in. Yeah.
Boom.
Well, I think that's why I like BJJ, and I want to get Coach Roy on this podcast because he's a good
Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah,
he
just got his black belt, Vanguard Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Shout out.
Vanguard.
But yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Brazilian
and
Jiu-Jitsu. Okay.
he's a good Catholic man, and he brings in the teaching and the practice and the art of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu with Christian philosophy and theology.
Oh, I love that.
It is. It's pretty cool, and I really do think that if we got him on here, we would have a really good time talking about spiritual combat as a Catholic, and then BJJ rolling on the mats with someone. Right, you're fighting someone. I see a lot of correlation.
For sure.
With that.
Oh, absolutely.
Especially when we were talking about the addiction, and it's a fight.
Yeah.
It's a fight, and in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, you're taught that it's a gentle art. It's a gentleman's art, right? Because in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, you are taught to kill, maim, break, disfigure, but you become comfortable in uncomfortable situations, right? You control the threat so that you eliminate the threat, meaning that if you are engaged with a threat, right, and I get him in an arm bar, I'm controlling this person, and all I got to do is move a couple inches. I can break their arm, but I'm not. But in that situation, I'm saying, calm down. I have you. The cops are coming. Don't do anything. We're done. I'm showing you mercy. I'm showing you mercy, right?
Which is very Catholic.
It is very Catholic. It is. And Jesus didn't tap on the cross. He didn't tap out. He didn't tap. When you're sparring with someone who's better than you, like I'm just a blue belt, 2-stripe, and if I'm rolling with a purple or a brown, this he's toying with me, but he's allowing me to learn. But at any moment, he could descend on me and just break my knee or my neck or whatever, So there's mercy there. But if I'm rolling with another blue belt and we're like evenly matched and evenly matched across the board, like with athleticism, strength, endurance, knowledge, technique, all that, who the victor is in that fight is the one who perseveres and doesn't give up in the midst of pain. And that's exactly what those who have to do that's exactly what the guys have to do who are addicted to porn. You get on that mat and you're going to wrestle and you don't give up and it's going to hurt, but you don't tap.
Right.
You don't tap. And there's been many times where I've sparred and I'm like, man, I'm about to tap. And then there's an opening and I move my elbow here. I post out here, right? I shrimp out this way. And next thing you know, I'm on top and I got him in a rear naked choke. He's tapping out, but I almost just tapped, but I didn't give up. Because I didn't give up, I persevered and I won. And that's the same with battling with that addiction. It sucks. It's going to hurt. But you have to persevere and you don't give up. Don't tap. Don't tap. Don't let Satan in there beat you up with that shame. Don't tap.
Be vicious and don't tap.
I like it. That's what I'm going to have.
That's another T-shirt. That's another T-shirt.
Yeah.
Be vicious. I'm
we used to do that. We used to come up with all kinds of slogans.
I still have my Google Doc.
We got to put that on there, be vicious and don't tap.
And don't tap. And don't tap. Another question.
I love being Catholic, man.
It's pretty awesome, isn't it?
Yep.
Right. This is a personal question.
Blue.
Kind of.
Blue.
Favorite color?
It's my favorite color. Blue.
Favorite food?
Bacon hamburgers.
Oh, cheeseburgers, you mean?
Yes, but I can't really do the bun thing. It fills you up. It does. So I do like the lettuce wrap.
Okay.
Man. It makes it more juicy too.
Okay.
And then you can eat more. You can eat more meat.
That is true.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. Child etiquette at Mass. For priests, I guess it wasn't really a question for him.
Well, if your church ain't, how does it go? Your church ain't crying, your church is dying.
But like obviously there's prudence in certain aspects. Like if the child is losing control. Like there's obvious things to send them out. But I think like so all of you know we have 4 young kids. Our boys are very rambunctious. They can't sit through mass. I mean they're all over the place, right? If we can get them for like 20 minutes quiet, like that's a good mass. But like from a priest perspective too, because our big thing is we don't want to distract what's going on at the mass. We don't want to be a circus for people.
A center of observance.
Exactly, right? So we want to be
Attention.
respectful for that, but we want our kids to obviously sit through mass too. So like from a priest perspective, what are you guys looking for parents? I think this goes out for all parents. What's kind of like, I mean, I know every priest is going to be a little bit different, but I think there's probably, maybe you guys talk about like what to tell your parishioners or something.
Well, that's a whole different story right there with the attire. I could talk about that later, maybe. Particular to me at my parish.
We could do that.
Yeah. You know, there's a couple avenues I could go down, particular to my calling as a priest. Meaning, I absolutely love celebrating the Mass of the 62 Missal, right? The Latin Mass Extraordinary Form.
Mm-hmm.
Love it. It feeds my priesthood so deeply. And in that celebration of the Mass, the priest is ad orientem, right? Back is to the people. And he practices custody of the eyes, custody of the ears. And what I love about the Latin Mass is it's just so perfect for the Holy Sacrifice. Everything about it's perfect. And only priests who celebrate it can understand what I'm saying, is that when you're entering into that, you're in the zone, man. I don't hear anything. I mean, you could have someone come in there and just, light a M80. I'm in the zone. Custody of the ears, custody of the eyes, custody of the movement. And the way the liturgy of the rubrics of that liturgy are set, it's 2,000 years old. It's like it stood the test of time, guys. It works. It allows you to enter into that environment, right? So when I'm praying the Latin Mass, I don't pay attention because I'm not looking at you guys.
Yeah, right.
I'm not supposed to.
You're focusing on Jesus.
This ain't no cooking show,
yeah.
Right? So it's custody of the eyes, it's custody of the ears, man. I am in it. I mean, I'm like a burrow tick. Like you can't, and I love it, right? So I don't know what's going on behind me, and you know what? That's okay.
Yeah.
Now, in the Novus Ordo Mass, I really have to try hard to maintain custody of the ears, custody of the eyes. Why? Because I'm looking at you.
You're looking at us.
You're looking at me.
Yeah.
And you can see everything.
Right.
Right? And that's the Mass that I pray the most.
Mm-hmm.
And so in those situations, where kids are going ballistic, for me, it doesn't bother me. I've heard of priests say, whatever they're doing, you need to remove that kid.
Oh, wow.
Right in the middle of the liturgy.
Yeah.
So at my parish, we have a lot of kids. We have a lot of babies. And there's a lot of movement. One kid stormed the altar, rushed the altar, and that stuff does not bother me.
Yeah.
We sent a letter out and we put it in the pews, pretty much explaining to our congregation, this is a family. Families are nuts.
Yeah.
And kids are going to run around. They're going to poop their diapers. They're going to puke, right? They're going to throw stuff. They're going to drop their Cheerios. Got it. Check. Good. Who cares? You're here.
Right.
You're here. And even if your kids are running around and you're trying to chase them, and then you get their Eucharist, and then you get in the car and you're exhausted, like, I don't ever want to do that again. Don't think that. Because what you're doing is, even if you go to Mass and, hey, like you said, 20 minutes is good if they sit still. Mm-hmm. What's happening is everything that starts from that morning when they wake up and they're getting dressed and you're saying we're getting ready for Mass and you're fighting to get the shoes on and the clothes and you're frustrated, you're planting seeds in your kids that they're seeing how much energy you're putting into them. And what you're doing is you're planting a seed in the kid, and the kid is saying, this is important because this is, honestly, in my life, this is what brought me back to something important that was outside myself, a religion, because I remembered my parents taking the time to do it, even though I was a snotty-nosed brat. So you're planting seeds in your kids, and even though it's a wrestle, and you get to church and you think you're like the center of attention because your kids are going ballistic and screaming bloody murder. Hey, that's family. That's what we do. But you're there. You're in home. You're in the heavenly liturgy. Like, bring it all. Like, who cares? And that's what we put in our letter to the people is like, bring the kids. We got the cry room, we got the narthex, we got the long hallway going to the school, we got the gym, we got the parking lots. Okay, but be here.
Right.
And you're planting the seeds in the kids. This is important. This is an important thing on Sunday morning, from when they wake up and they're screaming to when they finally come home from church and they're screaming. And you have to do that. You have to make it work. Sometimes the family splits. Like the kids are just too crazy. So one will stay home with the kids, and then one goes to mass.
Yeah.
And then they switch. Like parents, you have to go to mass, even if it's separate, and you stay with the kids because they're just too crazy or they're too sick or whatever. Though you should come as a family and just try and do your best.
Yeah.
And who gives a crap what other people say?
Yeah.
Or the sneaky little, or the nasty little snotty looks that someone gives, turns around and looks. And,
or the passive aggressive comments.
Yeah, it's those are stupid people. Who cares about them? Old lady, turn your hearing aids off then if you don't like it. It's a family. Come as you are, right? Okay, there's that, right? But now if we're going to talk about etiquette too, it's a holy place. So you're going to try your best to be in a state of mind and body and clothing to be in a holy place. I recently sent out, because there was a handful of people who were really ruining it, lectors or Eucharistic ministers that were, I'm gonna say it, I don't really care. Like, there's guys who will go to mass like they're hobos.
Oh yeah, we're flip-flops.
And then there's women who will go there like they're whores.
Yeah.
And I got sick of it. And so, because it was just a few, I had to send this clothing guideline out to the whole entire parish. And
how did that go?
That did not go well.
Yeah. I bet.
But you know what? The very next day, I doubled down and I sent it out again. And I sent out articles that they could read talking about reverence.
And how is etiquette now?
Better.
Is it improved?
And then the people who want to dress like they're hobos and whores are gone. Well, I haven't seen them. Or maybe they're just dressing normal now. But I got all kinds of kickback. I got called I'm a bigot. I'm a racist.
For telling people to dress properly for mass?
Hate speech.
Really?
It was, these weren't rules or codes. It was a guideline.
Yeah.
Like here we are, people.
It wasn't like mandated.
Like this is, and if I had it, I'd read it. But really what I was saying is, wear clean jeans, no shorts, no flip flops, dress sandals, wear, no spaghetti straps, cover your shoulders, nothing exposed in the front. Really what it was saying is cover up. Just cover up. But it was really interesting just to collect this raw data, and it really showed me where my flock, what we're at. So now I know what bulletin articles to put in reference to this and preach about, the dignity of the human body. What is reverence? And you know what it told me? It says they don't know what the Mass is. They have no idea what the Mass is. They think it's a picnic.
Yeah.
Or a football game. They don't know that the holy sacrifice of the Mass is a representation of the one-time sacrifice on Calvary in an unbloody sacramental way. Heaven meeting earth. You're going to go there dressed like you're in a bikini going to the beach? Or like you're going to a stinky football game and you're in your shorts and sandals? So I sent out guidelines.
I have a letter.
Oh,
do you want me to read part of it?
Yeah, go ahead, read it.
So you talk about the catechism, and it says, to prepare for worthy reception of the sacrament, the faithful should observe the fast required in their church. Bodily demeanor, gestures, and clothing ought to convey the respect, solemnity, and joy of this moment when Christ becomes our guest. You say other things, I'll just kind of stick to what we're talking about. So with this in mind, please follow these guidelines. For women, dress slacks or skirts, dresses, which are not above the knee. Blouses, sweaters, or appropriate tops. For men, dress pants, dress shirts, khakis, jeans without signs of wear, polo shirts for signs of wear like holes in it, polo shirts, jackets with or without tie, sport coats, dress shoes, docksiders, or business suits. Examples of inappropriate attire include jeans, flip-flops, sneakers, low-cut blouses, or tops with spaghetti straps, and mini skirts that are inappropriately revealing. Please remember that these guidelines apply year-round, not just during the summer months. What we wear to Holy Mass can give greater honor and glory to Almighty God, give good example and edification to others, and increase our faith in devotion to the real presence of our Lord in the Blessed Sacrament.
Mm-hmm.
You're very hateful and bigoted,
Mm-hmm.
Father Dom.
I'm
Dress should express
I'm a nasty
respect
man.
and reverence for the sacred mysteries that are being celebrated. It should never draw attention. Well, I think it goes back to just the whole cultural thing where Jason Ever talks a lot about this too. About what is he? Well, because he talks a lot about pornography, but lust of the eyes, and he says for women, women and men are very different, and for men, lust of the eyes is a big problem. It's not as much for women; it still is, but for men, like we're drawn where our eyes go, right?
Correct.
So if women, you go to mass and you see women in, because I've seen it too, short skirts, very revealing tops.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard not to look. I mean,
Mhm.
because we're men and that's how we're made, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for women out there who are listening, please help us. We want to be virtuous men. We want to be holy men, but we are sinful and we fall every day. And lust and pornography is something that many men struggle with still. So please help us. Opposite too. For men, dress appropriately too. For women, and for your children, for those of your parents, because they can see, oh, we're dressing up. Something important must be happening because we're dressing up.
Well, people don't know what love is, and so they try to get love in all the wrong places, if I could just use that sappy quote.
That's beautiful. Well done. Well done, sir.
They don't know what love is, and so they're trying to get a certain type of love and attraction from just trying to expose their body in a fleshy way, so that they're lust, and then if you dress that way, you're gonna attract a kind of man who's not gonna love you, gonna use you as an object. So I had a woman corner me about this, and she said
about this letter.
She said that women were still gonna dress this way, and if guys you look, it's your fault. And with that, and this was a grown woman, married with kids, and like she should have wisdom, and obviously she didn't, and I just couldn't. And I've heard this before, well, then men just shouldn't look.
Yeah.
Then why are you dressing that way really anyway?
Yeah. Like, who do you want to look?
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, who do you want to look?
And it just goes to our culture. It's just like this is how you conduct yourself as a human being. This is how you get your attention. This is how you get your love. Is that you expose yourself in this way in public?
It's sad.
It is sad.
It's very sad.
It's very sad. And it goes back to men who are virtuous will be able to fix the world. Why? Because a man who has virtue will see all these women dressed immodestly. And these women want the men's attention. And no matter how hard the woman tries to get the man's attention, the man will always say no. So what does that do? It completely strips the woman of her power, and it forces her now to be virtuous. Plus, when a man says no to women who are immodest and not virtuous, the only woman that's going to be left is one who is modest and virtuous, and that's going to be a good wife. So men have all the power. They just have to really work on virtue. And you're right, women aren't helping, and it makes it hard for us. And women aren't helping. But if they're not going to change, if women aren't going to change, then men are going to have to take the high road. Mm-hmm. And we're going to have to become virtuous. And we're going to have to say no to these women who aren't immodest and not being virtuous. And then seriously, it'll take the power from them. They won't have power anymore, especially the radical feminists. They won't have power anymore. I remember a Jim Carrey stand-up comedy session he was doing. He said, guys, I know this is hard. This is going to be hard. I want you to try and do this just one time. I know it's going to be difficult, but I know you can do it. I want you to do it one time, and that's it. Deny your woman sex when she wants it. And everyone started laughing, and he just went on. But you know what he meant? He did? For the most part, men will always be able to physically dominate a woman.
Yes.
So women need some source of power.
Right.
It's going to be their manipulative words in their body. So Jim Carrey was saying is if you deny that woman her desire to have sex with you, she has nothing left. You've just stripped her of all her power. And I was like, that's it. That's it. So if men could be virtuous, we could have that we could have that authentic masculinity, and then we could help women become virtuous.
Right.
Because they have no other choice but to be virtuous, because their immodest behavior is not attracting us in that unauthentic and sinful way.
Well, you know what?
Does that make sense? Do you know what I'm saying?
No, it makes perfect sense. Well, and the tide is turning, because if you look on social media and, women are starting to like, where are all the good guys at? And like, they're here. You just don't want them.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're, huddled in the corner trying to improve themselves, trying to better themselves. And all you want is guys who's drawn to you, who are probably dressing immodestly. Like, who do you think you're
just
going to
try and manipulate a weak man? Like an emasculated, effeminate man will succumb to a woman
to his passions.
Who's dressed immodestly and will just have free sex and will manipulate you with her words and language.
Right.
And if you can't control yourself, men, you will forever be wrapped around those radical feminists' fingers. Right. But if you can stand up and say no to all of that they're trying to throw at you to control you, there it is. There's the power of masculinity. And then you can begin to change the world. That's why I said there'd be no abortion. Why would there be no abortion? Because men would wait to have sex when they're married, and they'd be open to life, and they wouldn't use contraception, and they wouldn't kill the child. Because they're a man now.
Mm-hmm.
So there wouldn't be any contraception. There wouldn't be an abortion. There wouldn't be any human trafficking. And there wouldn't be any porn because they're not consuming it. I think this makes perfect sense to me. That's why men are the tip of the spear. That's why Adam in the garden was given charge to till and keep, guard and protect the garden. Eve was not. Adam was. Adam was created first to have a rite of passage, to be manned up, to then accept Eve. And then he was given charge to protect the beautiful creation, and at the center, right, the tree of knowledge of good and evil, and the tree of life, and Eve. And Satan knows that. That's why he got into the garden and went to Eve and not Adam. And because Adam wasn't wasn't guarding and keeping the garden and protecting it. And so if men aren't going to be the second Adam, but remain the first Adam, Satan's going to continue to rape the world. Because good men do nothing. So what do? Men, you become on fire Catholics. Not evangelicals, not non-denominationals, not Baptists, not Methodists, not Lutherans. Catholics. Why? Because you're going to have all the graces of the sacraments, which is going to be power to fuel your weapons to go and fight. You need the sacraments. That's why Jesus Christ started the church. His church. Matthew chapter 16, verses 18 and following. Peter the rock, his church. And then all that is all around the sacraments. That's what it means. That's how we get from this life to the next. Sacraments. Sacraments, sacraments, sacraments. 7 sacraments, not 8. 7 sacraments, not 6. 7, all of them. And they're in Scripture. Jesus gave them to us. He gave them to us for a reason. Because we need them.
Because we're stupid.
Why do we need the sacraments, men? Because we're stupid.
We are, though.
Yes, we are.
It's 9:03. Do you need to go? It's 9:03. Do you need to go?
9:03?
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
We're on a roll.
Yeah, it is. This is good. Again, yeah, I'm just so busy, man. Just so busy.
Let's finish with a Father Dom challenge.
Oh my goodness. When was the last time we did this?
Over a year.
Yeah.
Because we recorded with Dr. Dan. That was the last time we recorded. Father Dom's challenge.
Well, I mean, we talked about mortal sin.
Be vicious. Be vicious.
Yeah.
Make it a vicious challenge.
I want all men to join their nearest Brazilian jiu-jitsu gym.
Be vicious.
I want all men to either find a way to get in front of an adoration, a perpetual adoration, get in at perpetual adoration chapel, or even just get in a church, get in front of the tabernacle. Either tabernacle or exposed sacrament, and Amen. I want them to spend an hour in front of that, asking for the strength to increase the virtue of prudence.
Oh, prudence.
Knowing what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. And prudence is a very powerful virtue. It's a foundational virtue. Asking for prudence. An hour.
It's really not that hard.
Don't fall asleep.
I will admit, I have fallen asleep.
Oh, I have too. And those are deep, peaceful sleeps.
You know,
honestly, they really are.
I want to say though, it's like, because you're in Jesus' presence that you're so peaceful that your body just like and then that's why you fall asleep. Maybe that's
I'll keep saying it has nothing to do with only getting 3 hours of sleep.
Maybe
and the caffeine of 6 cups of coffee is worn off.
No, never.
Never.
We'll say it's Jesus. It's Jesus as well. No, because I've been doing a weekly holy hour with my friend, and we started just 30 minutes. We did that for maybe 2 weeks. Then we went up to 40, and then 50, and then we've been doing an hour for like 6 straight weeks now.
Good for you.
It really is easy. Like, bring a book, do a rosary, Divine Mercy. I mean, there's plenty of books out there where it's just like how to fill your holy hour. Mm-hmm. It's very easy, men. And the first hour that you do it will not seem like it's easy. It will drag, because I've been there, but it gets easier. And then you'll want it. Like, I yearn for it. I look forward to it every single week, like, because I know this is the day and the time that I'm doing it. So
yeah, and you know, you're not alone. Get with men. Need the fraternity, and Jesus has everything. He's providing us everything we need to get the job done, and it's the graces of the sacraments. Graces of the sacraments. So there's immense hope. Oh my gosh, there's immense hope. Satan wants you to think there is no hope, but there's immense hope. We just came off the resurrection and the ascension. Pentecost is Sunday.
Is coming up.
My goodness, like, death has been conquered. Like, we're full of joy and peace.
Well, we should be.
Exactly.
That's the goal.
But man, what an exciting journey. So,
be vicious. That's the name of this title of this episode. Be vicious. I love that.
Be vicious.
Slay your dragon.
Be vicious, slay your dragon.
Yes. Another t-shirt. Oh, no. Be vicious and don't tap.
Yes. Yeah. The slogans for t-shirts are endless.
Can you close us out with a blessing, Father Dom?
I sure can. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. O Lord, as we journey towards the great day of Pentecost, we're reminded of the gift of the Holy Spirit that we have received in our baptisms and all the times that we have received the most holy sacraments. Lord, you are always with us. You will never leave us, and we have such strength, and we have such hope and peace and joy in our hearts and our minds and our souls. Empower those who have listened to this podcast, Lord, and we ask that you just continue to protect them, be with them, encourage them, and set them on fire. The Lord be with you.